Okay, welcome back to data analysis in Excel. The last video we talked about the fact that we're looking at some useful Excel tools. We have talked about data named ranges and how to create them, how to use them in formulas. Now we're going to look at data validation. This is one of the easiest tricks to use in Excel and it's really helpful. So basically what data validation does is that it restricts the values you can put into a cell, right? And most people, what most people use most frequently is a list. So they can create a list of values, and only the numbers or the values in that list can be used in the analysis. Okay, so let's look at an example here. We have quantity and we have revenue. And I want to know what happens if I vary my revenue between 120, 150, and 170. Sorry, if I vary my price between 120, 150, and 170. So I want to put in a formula that calculates the price based on the quantity, but I want to do a revenue sensitivity analysis. That if the price is 120, this is what my revenue will be. If the price is 150, this is what my revenue will be. And if the price is 170, this is what my revenue will be. And I don't want any other numbers apart from these three numbers. This is where data validation comes in handy. So to do data validation, you can select the cell, right? Or the range of cells. It could be a range of cells you want to um, validate. So I select the cell, you go to the data tab. Under data tab, there is a group called data tools. Under data tools, here you have the button for data validation. You can see here it says it picks from a list of rules to limit the type of data. So if I click on this, I can see the data validation dialog box. If you're like me and you love keyboard shortcut a lot, the shortcut is Alt DL. Alt DL takes me to the same place. But if you don't like shortcuts, you can just follow the ribbon, right? So in this data validation dialog box, we can see that currently this cell, notice that I have to select the cell or the range of cells first, right? So this cell currently allows for any value. That is, I can type text, I can type numbers, I can type anything I want. Now, once I click on this drop down, I can see that I can limit what can enter this cell to various things. I can limit it and say only whole numbers can be typed, only decimals can be typed. I can limit it to a list, which is the most common use of this feature. I can limit it to a date and say it has to be between so date and so date, and so on and so forth, right? But here we want to create a list, so I'm going to click on list and ensure that this is checked in cell drop down. That will create a drop down button here where you can use to change the values, right? So for the source, you can go and put the source on a sheet, on a worksheet, on some cells on a worksheet. It could be on this sheet, it could be on that sheet, or you can just type it in. So in this case, I have three values: 120, 150, and 170. So I can type 120 and I have to press a comma and say 150, 170. And that is all I need. I have the list, I have the three options that can only go into this place, and I have selected my in cell drop down and I click OK. And I can see that there's a drop down button that comes here. Once I click on the drop down, I can choose between any of these three values. So in this case, I want to choose maybe 150. I click on 150 and there it goes. Now I can write on this cell. I can type maybe 170 and I press enter. Now what happens if I type 180? Gives me an error message saying that this value doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. This is one of the few error messages that make sense in Excel that you can actually just read and understand what it's saying. So it's trying to say that 180 doesn't fit the restrictions I've put on that cell. I have to choose between 120, 150, or 170. So I can either retry or cancel and go back to the previous value, right? So for revenue, I can take my quantity and multiply it by this cell. Remember, I could have even given this cell a name if I wanted, but in this case, I can just press F4 to lock the cell because I'm copying it down, Control, Enter. And I can click and drag. Select these two, Alt equals, and that does this. So the beautiful thing is if I come here and I click on the drop down and I click on 120, automatically this changes and I can see that at 120, my total revenue is 34,000. At 150, my total revenue is 42,000, and at 170, my total revenue is 48,280. Let's look at the second example here. We want to do a sensitivity analysis of growth rates in the named range rates. So first things first, we need to create this as a named range and then use that named range to create a data validation for this cell. Well, so these are the various growth rates that we're expecting. And we want to know if we grow our January numbers month on month by any of these rates, what will be the total quantity we're going to have at the end of the year. Well, so to create the named range, I can either select the ranges like this and come here and type rates, or I can select this with the header of rates, go to data, formulas, and I can see create from selection. If you can see here that there is a shortcut, the shortcut is Control Shift F3. So I can, select my range, Control Shift F3, and that takes me here as well. Excel already gets that I want to create names from the value in the top, which is rates, and type OK. So if you don't understand what we just did, please watch the previous video on named ranges so that you can be clear on what I just did, right? So now I'm going to select a rate. So before I select a rate, I need to create a data validation criteria on this cell. So I can either go to data and click on data validation, or I can type Alt DL, right? So now it's allowing every value. I can click on the drop down. I want to allow just a list. In this case, I can select this, and Excel knows that this is a named range. So as I selected it, you just put in the name of the range there. I can actually just type it as well, equals rates. Does the exact same thing, right? And I press OK. And you can see that there is a drop down here. Once I click on this drop down, I can select any of these values. Let's say I want 15%. So now I want to grow January numbers month on month by 15%. Remember we said to grow a number, you take the original value and multiply it by 1 plus the premium, right? If it was a discount, it would be original value times 1 minus the premium. So I'm going to take my February number is going to be equal to January number times open bracket 1 plus the rate that I'm using to grow the numbers. Now I want to freeze this rate because I'm going to copy this down. As I'm copying down, B77 can come down, but B74, which is the selected rate, cannot come down. So I have to press F4 to lock that. Close my parentheses, Control Enter, and I can select this and drag it down. Obviously, I can come here and type my alt equals. It picks the right range, and I can just press enter. And I see that my total is 1450. Of course, I can click on this selected rate and change the rate. I can say, okay, with this 5%, what happens? This will be my total. If I change this from 5% to 25%, this will be my total. And so that's the end of this video. Please stay tuned for the next video. God bless.